Got it.
So excited to meet with you today. So I have Susan Jarvis. Okay, quite a big introduction coming. You are the Maven from the Maven's Private Diaries podcast. I mean, that just caught me off straight away. And you are the founder of the Spicy Boudoir website. So yes, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about sex today on Sexy Aging Podcast. And how I have come across you is I introduced a lovely fellow Australian, Sandy Davies. She dropped me an email that says, hey, look, I think you'll really want to catch up with Susan. I think you girls will have quite a titillating conversation. And I know you haven't talked about sex on Sexy Aging. I'm like, I was thinking about it, but I just didn't know where to go. And as soon as I tapped into your website and saw some of your really cool YouTube videos, checked out the kind of resources and conversations you're having through your podcast and your blogs, I was instantly inspired, and here we are today. So welcome, Susan.
Thank you. Wow, that's quite a fantastic introduction. And I'll just say off camera, thank you very much for having me here and giving me permission to swear, because ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure the odd F-bomb will pop out at some point.
It's going down. And,
Yes.
And if anyone's continuing to follow or subscribe to Sexy Aging Podcast, then they know that's probably going to happen. We want to stay as authentic and true to ourselves in this amazing stage of our lives, right? So we can't apologize. We've already done all the apologies and we've passed through all the bullshit. So there you go. There's the first one. Here we are today. You also offer pleasure products for the over 50s and people living with disabilities. I think that's unique and extra special. And for a lot of people that will be like, wow, I want to tap into that knowledge and find out a little bit more about that. So we'll be covering some of that today. I just want to say I did check the website, got my Christmas list sorted. I was sitting here and my husband sits next to me and I'm like, check this out. So if any of the listeners want to know what I'm actually referring to, you will want to go to the Spicy Boudoir website. Awesome for Christmas. You're going to have an amazing Christmas and New Year's if you tap in and find yourself a nice pleasurable toy there.
Yes. And can I just on that note, Tracy, I am based in Australia, but I can ship to New Zealand as well.
Do you ship elsewhere?
My plan is to expand into the States, hopefully towards middle of next year, but I can definitely ship over to New Zealand and Norfolk, Lord Howe.
Oh,
hello.
Everyone in the islands gonna have a good time this Christmas. I mean, I think we've been locked up numerous times, many parts of the world, and you know, a little bit of self-discovery can bring a bit of joy into your life when you've got time on your hands. I am throwing in way too many puns here. I think I really want to get you talking. So you've got a really compelling background story that links to where you're at today, and I just want to open up the floor, take as much time as you need to share a little bit about yourself, your journey to where you are today, and what you're doing for us in the world.
Thank you. Well, I can assure you that 15 years ago, there's no way in a fit that I would ever think that here I would be, the madam of a sex shop. It just wasn't even anywhere on my horizon. 15 years ago, I was in a marriage. I was very, very unhappy. My weight had got up to 165 kilos. I was undiagnosed with depression at that time. And my dear, dear friend of 20 odd years, I'd seen her for a holiday in Brisbane, and I got home and she sent me a beautiful card saying how worried she was that she would soon be going to my funeral, because I was just so unhappy and very unhealthy, like extremely unhealthy. And she thought that would be the end of our friendship. I rang her in tears and she thought I was calling, to tell her to basically fuck off, how dare you? But I was calling to say thank you. Thank you for loving me so much. Thank you for trusting our friendship. And thank you for telling me what I needed to hear. So that put me on a journey of discovery and growth. And that was the catalyst moment. And then about a year later, around that time, I must say, I started walking, and when you're 165 kilos, it is like carrying blocks of concrete around your legs. I could only walk for about 15 minutes and I would be absolutely exhausted. But I eventually got up to walking for 45 minutes a day. My weight, I changed what I was eating. I wouldn't say I was eating that badly, just wrong food choices and too much. Okay, simple math, and not enough activity. So I got off the couch and walking, then I started going to the gym, and then I started to swim. I also went to Dante Alighieri Society, which is Italian language classes, because I just needed something extra for my brain. I was working full time for a very large telecommunications company, and I won't say the name, but I don't think there's that many very large telecommunications companies. I had grown up in that company I had started there when I was 17 and a half. So I realized I had a bit of a blinkered view about life. And then one day I read my star sign. It basically was my champagne moment. It made me realize that the only thing keeping my marriage together was our mortgage. And I made a decision to end the marriage. So that was around 2005. And by that time, I think I'd lost about 10, 15 kilos. And in the next 12 months post separation, I lost 40 kilos, but my father died and I was made redundant from my job. Most people, I think, would fall in a heap with redundancy, but it was like winning lotto. I received enough from my package that I could then go on to university full time for 18 months. So I signed up and did Bachelor of Psychology for a year and thought, oh, I like it, but it's just too clinical. I passed my stats. I was like, wow, but I wasn't getting excitement. So I changed over to social work and started working social work. Then I discovered into my degree while I was doing my prac that my knees had osteoarthritis from all that time being overweight. And I actually, after about 6 or 8 weeks on my feet every day, I was in that much pain. I was having suicidal thoughts and saw my GP. And I didn't end up going back and finishing my prac. But that study in that prac time, that was a few years after separation. And at that time, I was in a new relationship. But I gave the first 12 months post-marriage, post my divorce, as time for me. I really needed to rediscover who I was, Tracy. I had lost myself in the marriage, and I made a concerted effort to explore my intellect, my cultural spirits, my spirituality, my femininity. I'd been celibate for 3 years in the marriage. So I decided I'm just going to, remain celibate until I'm ready. So it was a good 12 months. And plus I had a teenage daughter as well. So I didn't want to create confusion for her. And as it turned out, the gentleman that I met, he was only meant to be my 6-week lover, but we ended up being together for nearly 7 years. So that was a bit of a journey. All journey of discovery. I explored my sexuality during that time, embraced my bisexuality, which I had never given attention to. And I just kept stepping into my greatness and stepping into the truth of who I am. And when you do embrace who you are and live your truth, every cell in your body vibrates with that positive. You're not going against. Have you ever held magnets and push them when they're polar opposite and they push away? That's what it's like for your body, I think, when you don't embrace the truth of who you are. And so here I am today, living a fantastic life. I have a new partner, about to get married, about to be a grandmother. And yes, the madam of a sex shop, and I'm here to help people tap into their sexual energy to help get over any shame that they might have grown up with, and fear about dealing with their body. And as we age, like, look at me, I've got beautiful grey hair. It's amazing. I love it. I catch women looking at me all the time. And I do want to say to women everywhere, it's okay to colour your hair. If that what makes you happy, do it. But if you are considering going grey, go and get a good hairdresser to help you transition. It's liberating, and it's liberating financially, because I'm now not paying $300-400 to colour my hair. So, I've lost track of where I was going. We've got caught up in my grey hair.
Well, that's because I'm sitting back here going, your hair is fabulous and I absolutely love it. How do you get it like that? And now that I know that it's natural, I'm quite inspired. I mean, you've covered so many amazing. I mean, my heart was racing at a couple of moments.
Oh, really? Which part?
Yeah. Just about you embracing who you truly are, the part about the magnets. It's so true. That's such a good analogy to use, because I feel like women and getting into midlife do have this moment where they wake up a lot of days with this feeling of life just isn't right. This is not who I'm meant to be. I don't know who I'm meant to be. When you talk about taking that time away to really find out who you are, that's a luxury, isn't it? Isn't that amazing?
Look, I was so lucky to have that time. That year between my marriage and my relationship with my previous partner, that was a year that I gave myself and my daughter. And we look back at that time as a really special time of our lives. We were batching together during that time. And, that was the first time for me at university as well. So it was a real period of growth for both of us during that time. And I think, to put the microscope or the magnifying glass over your own life, every now and then we all need to sit back and reflect on who we are, how we interact with others, and are we happy? Like, are we making ourselves hum inside? And you don't just need a good vibrator to make yourself hum. Look, hey, and I'm only in this industry for the puns too, by the way. So
oh, I bring them. And I don't even know I'm doing them half the time. I have a couple of questions for you. So how old is your daughter now, and how does she feel about the industry that you're in?
Interesting. Okay, so she's a fully grown adult.
Yes.
She's 30 now. And we don't actually talk in depth about what I'm doing. I'll tell her about, I'm in That's Life magazine at the moment.
Yeah.
Or I've just been on 9 Honey. Or I've had this wonderful podcast and it's been successful, things like that. But she knows the conversation is always there for when she needs to have it. Like, I've talked to her about sex for a very long time, to the point where she's probably like, oh, I'm sick of hearing it.
Yeah.
So, I grew up as a Catholic, not a what do you call it? We were laid back Catholics, I guess.
Yeah, so you go to church on Christmas and Easter.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I did my communion and confirmation, and that's the last time I was in church. But sex was never talked about in our childhood. I didn't even know I had a vagina, Tracy.
Yeah.
I remember, and please, everyone put your hand up if you did this too. I took a tampon out of Mum's drawer in the bathroom and I tried to put it in my vagina, but I was inserting it in the wrong hole. Trying to put it up my bottom.
Yeah.
And it's like, didn't even know about the vagina at all. And I remember when I got my period, I didn't tell Mum. I told my sister.
Yeah.
The older sister. And it was never discussed. And I came home from school one day in high school, and on my pillow was this book, Everything a Teenage Girl Should Know. So,
but you're actually not the first guest that I've had that has said literally the same story. So their conversation with their parents or their mother, as you would kind of expect, was a book dropped on the side. And just let me know if you've got any questions. Right? Yeah, it's very similar for me. When I was growing up, we got our information through school, and so Mum signed the form that said that I can go to the talk, and that was pretty much it.
Gosh.
Yeah, and but it's not like, it hasn't been like that for my teenage daughter. We talk about everything all the time, and particularly the period talk. Like, she'll wake up and tell the whole family, "Oh, I've got my period today, so you guys stay away." You know, she'll just like, it's like, you know, I've got a cold, or I'm not feeling it today, so you know, just be kind to me. And I think that's amazing.
That's great.
Yeah, it's changed. Yeah,
exactly. And it's the same. That conversation needs to happen in adult life as well. And
with so many things.
you know, from I'm due to have my period. I'm feeling particularly bloated at the moment, or fragile. But also to be conscious of that our perceptions of people around us change when we're in that state of PMT, but also with menopause as well. So yes, we just keep it's there, and she knows that one day I might become extremely famous, but I'm never going to put my tits on national television.
Okay, we've just heard that here right now. Note to self. So it'll go on the internet first, and that's how I'll find out. Hey, I want to move along into the conversation on midlifers, and not specifically menopausal women. I've had loads and loads of conversations around menopause, and they've been incredibly enlightening, especially for myself. I'm not an expert in that space, but I am going through that phase of my life. I see the glass half full. I'm a positive person, so I see, like you, that life is to be lived, and you should not be doing anything you don't want to be doing in this stage of life, or any stage of life, but it takes us that long to figure it out. And I can hear the clock ticking, but it's a positive ticking. It's like, get up, do the thing that makes the biggest difference, that brings joy into your life, and do not stop until you skid into the grave.
That's right.
Right? So we have that similarity. So talking about midlifers, and you also help minority groups understand sexuality and the importance of remaining sexual beings. Now, midlife women coming up against these hormonal changes, massive drop in libido. So a conversation that women hesitate to have, both with their partners, which is super sad, and with their doctors, is that they aren't feeling it. They've lost their mojo. They can't think of anything worse than having sex. So what's your experience with women in these conversations?
Well, I've walked a similar path. A few years ago, I felt that my sexuality had packed up shop, pulled the shutters down, and that was it. I just didn't even get an ounce of feeling to say I was horny, or that I wanted to be intimate or sexual or loving even. And that was a bit of a shock to me, because most of my life, even when I was married and living in a sexless marriage, I still felt that instantaneous arousal and desire that I wanted to have sex. So, you know, when I realized, oh, Susan, you're feeling a little bit flat here, I did some research, and I was only at the very beginning of my business journey with the Spicy Boudoir. And so I started to dive deep, and I discovered that there's multitude of research papers out there studying the female arousal. And yes, when we're younger, premenopausal or perimenopausal, all those hormones from that activate our drive to procreate are a big driver towards our arousal. And that it depletes and changes and lessens as those hormones taper off. So our clitoris, though, doesn't shrivel up and fall off. It's still there. It's still connected to our nervous system. It's still connected to our blood vessels, and it's still up here. And this is where my clitoris actually lives, is in my head. Then I've got another one in my heart. And then there's the physical clitoris between my legs in my vulva. So what I learned through research and study and having an interest in making sure that I maintain the benefits of orgasm, because I know it's the best drug on the market. And recently there's a little voice audio of me saying this, and I'll say it here too. I don't do drugs, but I do orgasms, and I get stoned. Okay. And you can too. So we just need to understand that we don't have that instantaneous automatic desire anymore. It's now responsive.
Yeah.
And it takes time. And for me, and every woman is different, but for me, I need this clitoris to be fired up first before my physical clitoris gets aroused. So what I need is words and sound. Sound is like a big amplifier. You know, there's nothing more sexy than someone moaning in your ear, telling you, oh, you're gorgeous, and I just want to, you know, so I need that.
Yeah.
I need touch. I need kissing. Kissing for me is a gateway drug. And I like to, you know, starting slow and building up to that deep passion. My erogenous zones, you start touching and playing with them. And, you know, within usually 20 minutes, and I'm not talking 5 minutes, I'm talking 20 minutes, I'm feeling, oh, yes, come on. Yeah. And that's how we need to start when we get older. And what a quality way of starting to have sexual intimacy, rather than bang, 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 or how about it? Are you up for it? I'll be up for it if you invest time in me. And so just going back to having that conversation, I held on to my frustration for some time. And like, you always think, oh, I need to try to be a sexy woman in bed, or to be an instigator to have sex. And it was like I was pretending to be interested. And so I just had to let it out. And I just basically opened up and told my partner how I was feeling. I said, I just feel my body has shut down. I don't have any interest in being sexual. I have a very dry vulva. I was going through a really period here of dryness, to the point where my vulva felt like leather.
Yeah.
And it was painful. And just going back to Sandy Davies, Happy Pores, which is her beautiful product for lubrication or natural lubrication, wasn't on the market back then. And I just wish it had been.
Yeah.
Because it's sensational. So, but having the courage to tell my partner, I love you and I want to show my love sexually, but at the moment I've just got no interest. That was a big kickstart for change.
Yeah, we're actually similar. So I've been married 20 years this year. And yeah, a few years ago, once I knew that I was perimenopausal, once I knew that my hormones were affecting me in this way, and I loved my husband as much as ever, but I didn't physically ever feel like showing him. Once I knew that I had the words and the science and the proof that I wasn't a freak, it was really, really enlightening for both of us. And we had like such an awesome conversation around, what does this mean for me? What do I need to feel like I could be intimate? What else can I do? Physically, mentally, emotionally, how can he support me? So because he's been so open and now he knows like everything about perimenopause.
That's great.
He fully understands like how difficult it can be for women to want to. It's not like we don't want to in our head. We remember that time, right? You remember the time when you just literally couldn't keep your hands off each other. And then you try to remember, like, why do I not feel like that anymore when we've had this massive history? And then know that, you know, the hormones are actually causing a big part of that, the next part is to really accept that there is a way through it, and there are amazing people like you and Sandy and open-minded doctors, and in my case, HRT. So not everyone can take HRT. I've said this and I've covered it a few times on the podcast episodes, but it has been an absolute game changer for me. And my libido has definitely shifted into a much happier gear.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good. And you're right, it's different for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, but having that, the freedom of dialogue and compassion for each other, is essential. And communication skills. I mean, we're not always taught how to express our desire and our want and our need in a positive way. And the other group of resources out there, Tracy and everybody, is sexologists. And if you're looking for a great sexologist, go and look at what their communication programs are, because that's the foundation. It's not about how good you can touch somebody's clit or how good you can touch someone's penis. It's how good can you communicate your need and respond and listen to somebody else's. That is the key to truly great sex. So,
that sounds amazing. What I'm enjoying. But it is, well, awesome. But it actually sounds really scary. So when I think about my audience or people out there listening, I think that intellectually they know what you're saying. I think it's getting started. It's fear, isn't it? It's fear of rejection. It's the fear of, okay, I'm going to have this conversation with my significant other and I don't know how they're going to respond.
Well, just on rejection, this is actually something I've learned during when I was single and I was dating. I learned that rejection is just but a fleeting moment, whereas your regret will last forever unless you can repair the regret. So fuck rejection, just do it. Don't be scared of rejection. And yes, having those conversations can be quite painful, and it might instigate other reasons or other questions might be raised in the relationship. But what's worse? You know, living in a life where you're constantly, does he want to have sex tonight? What am I going to do? I don't feel like it. Just get it out there. And the other thing, and I'm going to just beat on about this, we need to all stop thinking about sex as being a penis in a vagina. Because sex is so much more. It's that deep eye gazing, it's conversation, it's touch, it's pleasuring each other. Just forget about bonking. That's old.
So yesterday.
Exactly.
I also want to get back to you know, what you do as a madam for a sex shop, and the wares that you sell online. With midlifers or middle-aged women and men, what are they looking for? They're probably obviously looking for some advice. And what's the most common way that you can help and support people that are trying to reignite that spark or find that mojo back in themselves? They obviously know that they want to make a change. So how do you help them make the change?
Okay. Well, firstly, it's education, because many people in our generation, I'm 54, and I'm dealing with people normally from 50 up to 65, 75, haven't had that education around sex and sexuality. They don't understand the importance of lubrication. They don't understand how their anatomy works as well. So I talk to people. I went looking for it before. I have a 3D model of a clitoris here, which my beautiful partner printed for me. We've got a 3D printer here.
Wow.
And our clitoris is actually like an iceberg. What we can see is just the very, very tip. And there's a whole domain of pleasure sitting under our vulva, which expands and gets engorged during arousal and orgasm. So I talk about anatomy. I talk about the different types of products that can help someone, say if they have difficulty experiencing orgasm, either male or female, what type of product can help them get over those hurdles. But usually, Tracy, it's conversations around attitude and acceptance of their body, and acceptance that it's okay to be sexual. We are sexual beings, and it's a part of our spirituality, and there's an energy for us to tap into. So that's the type of conversations that I have. It's reassurance, knowledge, and someone to confide in as well.
Yeah. Oh, well, people are so lucky if they come up and meet you and I'm sure that they have very enlightened discussions, and you must feel pretty good about what you contribute to the world, helping people tap into their sexuality. It's pretty awesome. And you also, you not only work with midlifers, you work with people with disabilities, you work with people working out their sexuality if they've decided that their way that they live today is truly not how they want to live the rest of their lives. So you're an amazing human being.
Thank you.
Susan.
Thank you. I feel very privileged when people trust me and choose me to talk to about their intimacy and their sex life.
Yeah, I mean, it's a massive trust thing, isn't it? Because obviously we're still dealing with shame and shouldn't really talk about these things, and shouldn't really talk about it with someone else that I don't know. And, there's still all of that, isn't there?
That's right.
Yeah. So I want to wrap up today's really awesome conversation with we're inspired by you, but who inspires you?
Well, I have two heroes. One, I have loved this woman my whole life, even as a child. Do you know Maggie Tabra?
I haven't heard of Maggie Tabra, but I will be looking her up after this.
All right. So Maggie Tabra, just for your listeners, she's an Australian woman. She's an icon of Australian fashion. She started out as a model, became an editor for Australian Women's Weekly for many, many years, has had fashion or interior decor shows on television. And it must be just after I ended my marriage, I was in a secondhand bookshop and I picked up her autobiography for like $3. I said, I'll read that. And it was one of the best reads I've ever had. And she's very open about her sex life and who she was as a woman. And it was a woman living life on her terms. So I'd have to say I've modeled who I am on a little bit of Maggie Tabra. Also, Maggie reminded me of my mother. They had very similar facial features, both beautiful women. The other woman who I was just talking to before I joined you is my, I guess you could say, mentor almost. Her name is Joan Price. I totally recommend that you interview Joan, Tracy.
I've written it down,
Joan is in the States and she is a senior sexuality advocate. I first met Joan when I was researching my business and trying to find the courage to go live.
Yeah.
Actually, trying to find the courage to tell Mum, Mum, by the way, I'm opening a sex shop. I came across Joan, and here's this wonderful woman, 72 years of age, talking all about sex and educating seniors about sex.
Yeah.
And I just thought, well, if she can do it, I can do this, and tell Mum that it's okay. And Joan is just fabulous. She's one of the most amazing women I know, and the main reason I started my business and who I am today as Susan the Maven.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend everybody look up joanprice.com and Google Maggie Tabra, Tabber.
I'll put both of those incredible women in the show notes and the links to find out who they are and all about them. So I think they'll be grateful. And it's good for us as well, because when we listen to someone that inspires us, I automatically go to who inspired you, you know? So
Mm,
it's nice to share and put it out there in the world.
mm.
Susan, thank you so much for your time today. And I have popped the cherry with my first sex talk on the podcast.
I'm sure there'll be more.
Well, I'm going to dial into Joan. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
You're welcome, Tracy. Bye, everyone.